Hello everyone, Michigan Railfan 57 here. Over the summer of 2024, I went trackside a bunch and caught a whole lot of trains thanks to my scanner and an app I found that alerts me of any southbound trains in Plymouth. I caught so many trains, in fact, I couldn't put them all in one video. It would be way too long, so I decided to split them up by each month. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's start the video. The first train I caught was CSX L314, the southbound Lake State Railway train to Walbridge, Ohio. It had average power, but something later during the train caught my eye. You see that smoke? That's a hot box, which is when a bearing overheats and starts to smoke. They can also catch on fire. This is my first time seeing a hot box in person. They don't usually happen as much, but they do still happen occasionally. The next day, June 15th, I caught a southbound M511 with a Mack rebuild and an SD40-2 trailing. Sorry about the weird angle, I was still figuring out how I liked my setup on that side. After this train passed, I looked through my phone video and saw some interesting graffiti on the Mac. Someone does not like working for CSX. Anyways, the next train was I-151, with a YN3B DC GEVO leading and a YN3B AC44 trailing. This was interesting since I-151 doesn't usually use two engines. Also, the lead unit had an amazing first-gen K5HL. Unfortunately, I didn't pay attention to where the sun was and ended up getting a super backlit shot. next train was a light power move, with a fresh GP40-3 rebuild number 6567 leading, and SD40-3 number 4035 trailing. Most of CSX's GP40-3s have the SpongeBob cab like the SD40-3, but the newer rebuilds did away with the boxy cab, and kept the original. This unit also had a very loud horn. The next train I wouldn't be able to make it to my spot for, but I did catch. It was a northbound grain train with a very friendly crew and a Mack rebuild trailing. Shortly after the grain train cleared, he would stop, like most grain trains do on this line. Following behind, however, was a light power move with an AC-44 and a DC Jibo. Around an hour after the light power move cleared, steel slab train B522 made a somewhat rare daylight appearance. This train usually comes by at like 4 in the morning, so it was nice seeing it in the daylight. It had boring power unfortunately, but it was still cool to catch this unique train in daylight. After B522 cleared, there would be a period of nothing until around 9 p.m., when a southbound autorack M268 came through. It seemed I didn't learn my lesson about being on the same side as the sun, so this shot was extremely backlit. Fun fact, this train had CSX AC44 number 5 trailing, which is one of the lowest numbered units on CSX's roster. You can't see it very well on my camera, but my phone video caught it in some better light. This would conclude my railfanning for a couple of days. The next train I caught was on June 18th, a northbound local led by GP38-2 number 2680. This unit would work here on locals for about half the summer. A few days later, I caught M511 again with a much better angle, but poor lighting since I was on the wrong side. Again. This train was led by a Tier 4 Gevo and 6567 again, dead in tow. I assumed the unit was being relocated since I never saw it again after this, and the GP38-2 we saw earlier was here to take its place. A day later, and again with the backlit shots, I caught I-151 with a solo DC Gevo leading and a very friendly crew. It took me a bit to realize how much better my shots would be if I was on the other side, I guess. One day later, I caught M511 again, running pretty late, with a YN3B HC44 leading. Okay, final backlit shot for a while, I promise. I caught a local later that day with CSX 2680 leading again. The next day, I caught a southbound local with SD40-3 number 4035 leading. This was the first time out of many I would catch this unit working locals over the summer. As of the date this video was made, 4035 is still working locals here. I'm starting to think it's never leaving. The next train was pretty unusual. It consisted of the same DC Gevo I saw on I-151 a couple of days ago, and a singular track geometry box car. I'm guessing they were either doing track scans or just transporting it to a new location. Just like the last time I saw this engine, the crew was very friendly. However, this wouldn't be the only special train I saw today. About an hour after this wacky train cleared, a southbound L314 came with another DC Gevo on the point, and the usual Lake State Railway SD70M trailing. Interestingly, the lead unit had a very quiet horn and an EMD steel bell. A few hours later, I got a notification from the Plymouth Trains app that said a train had blocked Farmer Street, which obviously meant that something was coming. I checked the camera and could not believe my eyes. A southbound Herzog Ballast train was slowly making its way towards me. I hadn't seen a Ballast train in years and had never got one on camera, so I was super excited. I grabbed my stuff and set up on the correct side this time so the shot would not be backlit, and waited. Now, I didn't see the power on the camera, so I was hoping it would be equally good. And I was in disbelief. The rarity of one YN2 leading a train is enough for me to consider a nice catch, but two, and on a ballast train, I was doing all I could not to foam. As the ballast train cleared, I grabbed my stuff and headed home with satisfaction. But there was more to come tomorrow. Before we could get tomorrow, however, there was one more train today. It was a local, with GP38-2 28680 speeding off to do some work down south. A great way to end this awesome day. Now we get to the next day, June 25th. I had first caught a southbound I-151 with a normal GEVO leader, where a biker scared the heck out of me by asking if I had a license to record trains. Thankfully, they were only joking, but that put me on edge. I didn't put the recording of the locomotive in because there was lots of talking, but the thing that made today so awesome came shortly after I-151 cleared. I had gone back home and was hanging out enjoying summer when I saw that Farmer Street was blocked. I went to check the camera, and lo and behold, I saw an intermodal on it. Now, this might be confusing to some because I just showed you a video of the only southbound intermodal on the Saginaw sub. So why would there be another intermodal coming? And why was I so excited? Well, this intermodal was I-131, originating in Livernois Yard in Detroit and terminating somewhere around Chicago. I-131 doesn't usually take the part of the Saginaw sub I live near to avoid traffic, and instead takes a Conrail shared assets line that bypasses most of the Saginaw sub. So this train rarely comes by me. Cool. But the main reason I was so excited was that I-131 almost always has foreign power from the Union Pacific on it. The last time I saw this train, it had an SD70ACe lead-in, so I was hoping for something cool when I went in. And when I heard a distant horn known as a K5LLA, I knew I was in for a treat. I absolutely could not believe this. 2 Union Pacific SD70ACes on the front, and 4 CSX GEVOs dead in tow, 3 of them being the older DC variant. This had absolutely made up for the whole I-151 debacle earlier in the day. The way the crew could have just used the CSX GEVOs and made the Aces trail, but chose to have the Aces lead, absolutely made this one of the best catches of the year for me. Also, the K5LLA on the lead ace was so loud it peaked my camera's microphone. Absolutely incredible. The next day, I caught a southbound M511 with a rebuilt AC-44 leading. CSX has recently begun rebuilding their AC-44 fleet into CM-44s, which means the chances of getting YN2 units are even slimmer now. A day later, I caught M511 again with a standard GEVO duo. Later in the day, I caught I-151 with CSX 3131 leading. For those wondering what the unit leading I-151 the day the biker scared me was, this was that unit. A day later, I caught M511 yet again with a solo Tier 4 GEVO leading. Interestingly, this train had a large line of brand new covered hoppers lettered for SPMX. It's always interesting seeing new rolling stock, especially lots of them.
SPMX hoppers.
About an hour later, CSX 2680 trundled by with a few covered hoppers, probably heading to Wayne or Romulus. A little while later, CSX L314 came through with the usual consist of a CSX Chivo and a Lake State SD70M. About an hour after that, I caught CSX I-151 again with a solo CM44 rebuild on the point. The final trends I saw this month was on June 30th. I caught CSX I-151 slowly passing by with two Jibos.
train coming.
I was wondering why the train was going so slow until I saw headlights in the distance. To close off this month of railfanning was CSX L313 passing by just after I-151 cleared the crossing, forcing the drivers to wait a little bit longer. Overall, June was a very fun month of railfanning for me, even though I only railfanned half of it. From catching track geometry boxcars to ballast trains and even a Union Pacific SD70ACe, this made June of 2024 a very memorable month. Thank you all for watching. This is Michigan Railfan 57 signing off. Have a great day.